Harriet Tubman always knew one thing, that she's going to be free, because she believed. I believe. Come on up here, brother. Come on. Yeah, you and the rest of y'all too. Come on. Come on. Come on, y'all too, sisters and brothers. We all sisters and brothers. Whether or not you believe it or not, we all are sisters and brothers. Come on up here. Come on and rock. Come on. Come on. Come on up here. Come on up here and dance. Come on, who believes? Hey, who believes? Say, I believe. Hey. Everybody say, I believe. Come on up on the stage. Okay, I know one thing. I know the basketball players are going to follow Mr. Stowers. Come on. Cause you what? I believe.
I believe.
I believe.
I believe.
I believe.
I believe. I believe.
Okay. Hey, is that all I'm going to get? Hey, I got somebody else out there. Come on up here, y'all. Ain't no sense in being bachelors. Come on, come on. I know you. Okay, what's the name? Who was the gym? Okay, Mr. Stowers said, come on up here. Mr. Stowers, the coach said, no playing time if you don't come. Come on, lead in the power. And I never, ever doubt, every minute, every hour, I believe. Oh, I believe in the power. And I know I get my help from the power in the sky. Come on, let's go. Come on, you too. Come on, let's get on up here. Come on, come on, get on up here. Come on, come on. Come on, let's dance. Come on, y'all. Come on. Don't make it fun for me. If you don't, you gonna disrespect the guests in your house, huh? Come on. Every time okay, y'all, let's rock it. They don't want to come, but we're going to have a party, okay? Nothing seems impossible if you believe. Oh, I believe in the power. And I'll never, ever. Come on, Mr. Stowers. That's right. I believe in, because I know I get my help from the power in the sky. I believe. Oh, I believe. Every minute, every hour. I believe. Oh, I believe. Say, what do you do? Say, we believe.
I believe.
Believe. The real bill help talking about myself. You gotta believe that you got the power. Believe in yourself when you can't find no one else to believe. To believe. Okay, hands up, y'all. I believe. From the power in the sky, I believe. Do believe?
I've got the power.
Do believe? Do you believe? I believe. And I'll never ever doubt. Every minute, every hour, I believe. Thank you, Simon Kenton. Appreciate that. Because you know, y'all don't believe what your parents are telling you today, but one day when you get grown up, you're going to see how smart your parents is when they try to tell you something. I know I did. This show today is dedicated to my friend, Bob Clemens. Bob Clemens was a Union soldier. And I have to tell you, and this is why this is around here. On my banner you see out there, you saw that banner? It's got a Union soldier on it. Not the general, the soldier. That was my friend Bob Clemens. My friend had a heart attack and died the day that I talked to him. And I found out the next morning. So take life a little bit more serious. I know that you're young and you may not know. But listen to this story very, very carefully, because this is a true and accurate story. I want you to close your eyes. Please, indulge me. And think about saying goodbye to your mother or father this morning, or to your brothers and sisters or wherever. You're walking down the street. Somebody grabs you, puts chains and shackles on you, take you, put you on a ship, bring you all the way across the sea. You land on a ship with somebody that looks like you, but you don't even understand their language. And then you get to this country, and you never, ever see your family again, because this is the story of how slavery came about in America. Shh. 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 When Israel was in Egypt land, let my people go. Oppressed so hard they could not stand, let my people go. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell old Pharaoh to let my people go. Ooh, let my people go. Good morning. I'm the ghost of Harriet Tubman, also known as Moses, because I saw a need that had to be met. Well, I was born in 1820 in Tidewater, Maryland, but in 1619, 20 Africans were stolen from the land of Africa, brought to the United States of America, sold into slavery. For you see my grandma, great-grandma, she was brought over here on one of those vessels. That's how I became a slave myself. Well, I was born in Tidewater, Maryland. You know, somewhere in the Eastern Shore? Well, I was born to Harriet Green Ross and Benjamin Ross. And I had other brothers and sisters too, you see. Now we lived on this, what you call this here, plantation. Now the master, he lived in the big house, and the slave, we lived down in the slave quarters. When I was a little girl growing up, these old women, too old to be slaves, they watched us little children while some of us worked in the big house and some of us worked in the field. But when I was 6 years old, just 6 years old, that's when my slave's duty started. Now I want you to picture this. My job was to carry buckets of water out to the field hand to quench their thirst when working in the hot sun. Now that bucket was made of wood and it was full of water, and it was heavy too. But it didn't make no difference how heavy it was. I was a slave, and slaves didn't have no rights. But I hated this whole slavery thing. Then when I got to be a little bit older, because everybody couldn't afford to own slaves, old master decided he's going to hire me out. This here particular day, this woman come to fetch me, and she's going to take me back to her house to teach me how to weave. And I'm going to come back to the plantation and teach the rest of the slaves how to weave. For old Wright, she didn't want me to be a field hand. She wanted me to have a trade. When I got in old Missy's house, lint and dust was flying every which way it was. For you see, I hated being on the indoors. I like being on the outdoors where I could feel the warm sun shining on my face, smell the beautiful forest and the green grass. I hated being on the indoors. When I got to this woman's house, lint and dust was flying every which way it was. And all she ever did was call me lazy. Well, one day her husband got so tired of her calling me lazy, he decided he was going to take me outside with him down by the river to track the muskrats. And boy, was I glad. When I woke up one morning, I told old master, I said, I was feeling kind of poorly, you know, sick, but it didn't make no difference that I was sick. I was a slave, and slaves didn't have no rights. Well, I got on up, and I was down there, and all of a sudden I just passed out, I did. Next thing I know, I back in the cabin with old Wright and Daddy Ben. She didn't want me no more, and boy, was I glad. That gave me an opportunity to go back to the big house. I rented the big house to the field. Then one day, old master decided he gonna hire me out. This here woman come to fetch me. She gonna have this here baby, you see. But all the way back to her house, something just did not feel right about that ride. When I got in that house, well, she come giving me a broom and a rag, telling me to
clean this house.
I didn't know nothing about no cleaning no house. I wasn't nothing but a child I was. And all of a sudden, she started beating me, and all of a sudden, this here white lady appeared and said,
"Why are you beating that child?"
And she said,
"'Cause she's lazy."
And she said,
"She is just a child."
And then, you know what that good white lady, I believe it was a relative of hers visiting from up north, said she ain't nothing but a child and taught me how to sweep and dust. She did. Well, soon Missy had this here baby. And that baby, all that baby ever did was cry and cry and cry. And when I couldn't stop that baby from crying, I'd get beaten, I would. I didn't know nothing about no child. I wasn't about a child myself. But this here particular night, that baby kept crying and crying and crying. It got to the point that I could not even get a good night's sleep. And every time I couldn't stop that child from crying, I'd get beat. But this particular night, I just figured the baby was hungry. All of a sudden, old Missy appeared. She started beating me, and she kept beating me. She kept beating me, and she kept beating me and beating me. She kept beating me, and she kept beating me. She beat me till my neck was raw. See, I got the scars to prove it. I got fed up with her. So I decided I was going to sass her back. So I sassed her back. And when I sassed her back, she took out running after me. I was running, she was running behind me. And I was running, I looked behind, and she was gone. I was tired. So I saw this here pig pen I did. So I decided I was going to get over there to that pig pen and hide. But then after a while, I got a little bit hungry. So I decided I was going to crawl over and get me some of that pig food. But those pigs wasn't having it. When those pigs went to sleep, I tipped over and got me some of that food anyway. Well, after a while, I fell asleep. And all of a sudden, I felt this here hands picking me up. And I said, "No, child, you shouldn't have did that. You know, child, you shouldn't have did that.
No, child, you shouldn't have done that.
Now, I got to make your things okay with the master."
Now I got to make things okay with the master.
See, Daddy being what you call a good slave, made master a lot of money. Well, he took me back, and the master, I had to take a whooping, but that's okay. Then one time, this slave showed up by the name of Jim. Jim started talking about this here Underground Railroad thing. He was considered a troublemaker because he was always talking about this Underground Railroad and how he was going to make it to freedom. See, the South said, "Oh, the slaves, they fine. They just childlike." And the North says, slavery goes against everything God created a human being to be. That's how they had this here confusion, you see. See, the group of abolitionists, white people, Quakers, different people from different religion organizations, free black people came together to come against this this freedom thing. For you see, this Underground Railroad was not a train that ran underneath the ground. It was a group of people, and that's what they called themselves, abolitionists. And they had station stops, and that's where the slaves would go. And they had conductors, and those were the ones that would lead. And see, you had to travel at nighttime, and you always had to travel through the woods because you couldn't travel at night. Well, then, one day, as I was out there shucking corn, see, my daddy Ben, he taught me many things. Well, he taught me how to walk out in the field real quietly. Told me how to identify the springs of water that bubbled up from the earth to quench my thirst. Told me how to listen to the earth, to hear the sounds of the horse's hoof. Told me about these berries that were good and which were poisonous. The herbs that make you feel better, how to feel around a tree, and when you feel around the tree, you feel the mouth, you head north. He said that when you see a billboard, and they got a black man, and he's carrying a stick, they're looking for a runaway slave. Taught me how to take an axe and chop it, and chop those trees, and chop those trees. And you know what? Here tell while I was chopping these trees, these are muscles build up they did. They said, well, I was so strong that I could carry a grown man across the field. Some said when I ran across the field, said my stride would be so wonderful, my stride would be so beautiful, they would stop working just to watch me run. Well, one day we was out there, and Jim was out there, and we was shucking corn. And all of a sudden, Jim struck out the door. The overseer looked up and said, "Where's Jim?" Now I didn't say nothing because I knew one day I was going to run away too. But the overseer looked up and spotted Jim. And he took out running after Jim. And now me, I kind of just moseyed on along because I knew one day I was going to be free too. He caught up with Jim in his store. Jim went one way and he went the other. They were going back and forth, back and forth. And all of a sudden, Jim struck out the door, he did. Now the overseer told me, he said, grab him, catch him, hold him. Now I couldn't even understand why he thought I was going to help him catch a runaway slave. I didn't even understand that. And I jumped in the door to stop him from catching Jim. Well, he got so angry with me, he picked up that 2-pound weight, threw it, cut a gash in my head. See, I got the scar to prove it. After that, they take me back. The master take me back and he dumps me in the bed.
Here, take her. She ain't worth 6 pence. She crazy, she is.
I was awfully sick. But while I was sick, I started having these here dreams I did. I dreamed that I was flying, and I saw this here line, and every time I got ready to cross that line, I'd either wake up or fall down. When I got to feeling better, Daddy Ben told me, "That's okay, child, because one of these days you're going to see that line and you're going to cross it too." Well, then after that, I started feeling better, and Master let me have this piece of land, and I was able to grow me some fruits and vegetables. Went to Baltimore, Maryland with my daddy, you see. See, now, when you traveled for the master, you had to have this here pass. And the pass would say, "On business for the master." Because if you got caught without that traveling pass, they'd grab you and sell you back into slavery. And about this time, they had what you call the anti-slavery law. That means that you could come from the slave states to the free states and take runaway slaves back. Oftentimes, you would take them back, and they were not slaves. They would take free people. But I remember that time I went to Baltimore, Maryland. And I remember that day. When I got to Baltimore, Maryland, where I saw these beautiful homes and these freshly painted barns and people dressed up in fine clothing. Yes, even colored folks dressed up in fine clothing. And I was able to sell my fruits and vegetables and make me some money. And then the next time I went, guess what I met? I met a man. John Tubman was his name. Strong black man, free black man. Good-looking black man. But guess what? Free black men wasn't worth nothing because they could not make no money because they had slaves. So he couldn't find a job, but anyway, I liked him and took a fancy to him, and we got married and moved back on the plantation into my cabin. Then one day I was out there in the fields, and I was working, you see. And I turned around, and the woman staring at me, and I was staring at her, and we were staring back and forth at each other, and all of a sudden she said,
"What's your name?"
I said, "Well, Harriet."
"Well, Harriet, if you ever need any help, let me know."
And she rolled on off. Well, see, this slavery thing was just vexing me. I couldn't take it no more. It was just gnawing at me. And I knew that God didn't give me the spirit of fear, but the spirit of freedom. And old Wright said she never thought of herself as a slave. Well, I decided one day that I was going to run away. But I didn't tell nobody. But prior to that, I told John, I said, "John, I can't take this slavery thing no more. I can't take it. I can't take it. I'm going to run away." And John said, "Look here, gal."
Look here, gal.
Louder.
Look here, gal.
You keep on talking about that running away,
If you keep talking about that running away,
I'm going to tell the master on you.
I'm going to have to tell the master on you.
You going to tell the master on me? And you know how cruel slavery is? From that point on, I looked at John real strange. See, for you see now, if I had left John, John wouldn't have had no place to stay. He didn't have no money, so quite naturally, he's going to tell the master on me. Ha ha. Well, the next day I decided I was going to make my break. So earlier that day, I fixed me some food, and I waited until John went to sleep that night, because you had to travel at night, and I went over, "John, John," and he was asleep, dead to the world, they say, because there's different kinds of sleep. Then I took my feet and I slid him into his new brogans and said, "Now won't he like that in the morning when he wakes up?" Well, then I ran to that lady's house.
Who's there?
A friend of a friend. Now, a friend of a friend, that was the language that they talked. When you went to a station stop or a person's house, you had to have a knock on the door, friend of a friend. You had to have notes. They had a candle in the mirror, in the window. All of these things were a part of the Underground Railroad. Well, when I got there, I went to the woman gave me a note, and she sent me to the farmer's house. When I got to the farmer's house, the farmer's wife did. Now, I wonder why she gave me a broom to sweep now that I'm free. I couldn't understand that. Why she gave me a broom, but I'm free? She gave me this broom just in case they were looking for runaway slaves. They would think I was one of hers. I thought that was pretty smart, I did. That night, the foreman came out, and he put me on the wagon. And when he put me over in the wagon, he covered me up. And when he covered me up, all of a sudden this fear came over me. It did. But just as quick as that fear came, that's as quick as it left, because God didn't give me the spirit of fear, but the spirit of freedom. Well, he took me down and he said, just follow the river, just follow the river. So my next station stop was a businessman's house. When I got in his house, he came leading me. I'm walking in and he would lead me like he was leading me to a wall. But guess what? He had a secret door in there. For see, Pennsylvania was nothing but 90 miles from Tidewater, Maryland, Pennsylvania being the free state. But it took me 4 days to get there because some slave catcher was out looking for me. Well, that night, the farmer took me in, put me on the wagon, and the next thing I knew, I crossed over that line to freedom into Pennsylvania. While I looked at my hands to see if I'm still the same now that I'm free, I looked at the sun, and the sun was shining so bright. I said, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord, for this freedom thing. Thank you, Jesus. I thought I had died and went to heaven. Well, after I kind of gathered myself on up, I went on into the Anti-Slavery Society and signed my name in, because you got to have your documentation, sign my name in. Then I got me a job working at a hotel washing pots and pans and cooking. But after a while, freedom for me was just not enough. I started thinking about my people. They got word back to me that Master was going to sell my sister down south. So I decided I was going to join this Underground Railroad. Now, see, you had to work some because you had to finance your own trips. So I joined this Underground Railroad, and sometime I go in like a man. Then sometime I go in like a little old lady. Well, I went in and I got my sister out. See, you had to buy your stuff and so on and so forth. Then one time I went in to get this band of slaves out, and the one slave said, he was going back. He says, I was going back. I was going back. I was going back because I was scared. I was scared. I said, go back, go back. I'll shoot you. Sure, she's standing there. But not that Harriet was a murderess. If that slave had went back, the master would have made things so hard on him, he would have been forced to tell on the rest of us. Needless to say, he went on. Then one time I went in to get John, because I started kind of missing my husband a little bit. Y'all know how that is, girl. So I got ready to knock on the door, and guess what? I heard another woman laughing. John had got him another girl, so I just kind of backed up. Then one day I went in and I got this slave by the name of James. James Strong, Mandingo, cost Master a lot of money. That night while we were out there, had one of those billboards looking for him, so we had to hide out. Remember, we had to go in rain and sleet and hail and snow, going through the thickets of the woods and all of these things. And sometimes we would be so frightened. For you see, the one thing that Harriet Tubman knew, she knew that she did not have the spirit of fear, but the spirit of freedom. Then she got to thinking about her mom and pa. They had been in slavery all their life. So she decided that she was going to go get them. So she got word back to the plantation to find out if the master still had that wagon in the barn. They said yes. What about them horses? Yes. Well, when I got there, I got Old Wright and Daddy Ben. Old Wright, Daddy Ben. I knocked on the door because I told him, don't tell Old Wright I'm coming, because she would have been all nervous. When I knocked on the door, she was all up in arms. Told her, stay here, I'll be back. Well, I went out there and I was out in the barn and I was unhitching this here wagon, you see. And I turned around, there was a white man staring at me. And he was staring at me, and I was staring at him, we were staring back and forth. And all of a sudden, I kept on unhitching this wagon. I said, shh. He never said a word, he did. Not one word did he say. See, everybody wasn't on this say slavery thing, but I got my ma and pa on that wagon that day. When I got my ma and pa on that wagon that day, I beat that horse, that wagon was going so fast. I beat that horse, and that wagon was going so fast, it made my ma and pa's teeth chatter did, because I had a train to catch. And when I got to the train station, old Rich said, Daddy, ain't you coming?
Daddy, ain't you coming?
I said, no, old Rich, I'm not coming. For you see, they had a $40,000 reward out on my head. They said, when we catch that black wench, we're going to string her up. Some said I was the tallest woman they'd ever seen. Some said I had eyes like cat. I could see on the darkest night. For you see, the one thing about Harriet Tubman was, oh, you remember when she got hit in the head with that 2-pound weight? She could be talking and have a seizure and go to sleep, but when she woke up, she would remember exactly what she was talking about. For you see, I never lost a train, never lost a passenger, never ran a train off the track. One day, I was at the railroad station, and there were 2 white men sitting in there, and they was trying to look at me and see if I was Harriet Tubman, you see. So I took this book and put it up to my face like this. And they said, no, that's not her, because she couldn't read. I was just happy that I had the book in my hand. I didn't even know if the book was right or not. Tricked them. See, they know I was the most famous and the most notorious one of them all. Then one day, this here war started. You know, the Civil War. The war between the North and the South. Well, I joined this here war, but I would also take slaves from the United States to Canaan land, which is Canada. And when I would take them there, they would say, Moses is back, she got some more slaves. Moses is back, therefore crossing the Niagara 11 times. For you see, Canada was under what you call the lion's paw, and they did not believe in slavery. They had abolished slavery, so we were safe there. But anyway, during this time when I joined this here Underground Railroad, and then I joined the Union Army. Well, I became a nurse, a scout, and a spy, working with Abraham Lincoln. As a matter of fact, they used to call me General Tubman. For you see, one time I was on one of those vessels and went down, and we saw all these contrabands, and they come popping up out of the field. And I would go into the infirmary where men's arms were shot off, legs were shot off, where they had gotten hurt really bad in this here particular war. You would see flies all on them, all kinds of conditions. But see, my daddy Ben had already prepared me for that job, and so that's how I could go in there and work. The North won the war. And you know what? All that work that I did for the Union Army, do you know what? The Union Army never paid me not one dime for all that work that I had done for them. But it wasn't about the money, it was about the freedom of my people. Now, Queen Elizabeth from England wanted me to come to England. I couldn't go, but she sent me something. So Canaan land was too cold, so we came back to the United States of America, and I settled in a community called Albany, New York. Well, this here white lady heard about my life, wrote a book about me, she did. Then she wrote another book about me. And then guess what else I did? I found another husband. Got married again, and he was a veteran from the Union Army, and he was kind of sickly, and he died, so I got a $20 pension from him. And then I was able to buy me a piece of property, 32 acres of land, and President Lincoln's Secretary of State was the one that fronted that for me, and that land is still in the possession of the Harriet Tubman family now. Harriet Tubman died at the age of 93. She knew one thing, that her life had meaning, her life had purpose, and she knew that always that she was going to be free, but freedom is a state of mind, and if you're locked up in your mind, you can't go no place. But if your mind is free, if you're in chains or not, you're still free, and Harriet Tubman always knew she was going to be free. She died in Auburn, New York, at the age of 93 years old, and her property is still there today, and she took care of old, sick people and continued the work that she was appointed to do. Because she knew that in her purpose, that God did not give her a spirit of fear, but the spirit of freedom, and those spirits continue to live on through the woman who was in the field, through the woman in the house. All of these people, because the one thing is, we all know this, that we're all one. Let my people go. No more in bondage shall they toil. Let my people go. So now, when I hold this stick up, I want y'all to say, let my people go. Can y'all do that for me? When Israel was in Egypt land, let my people go. Oppressed so hard they could not stand, let my people go. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land, tell old Pharaoh, let my people go. No more in bondage shall they toil. Let my people go. Let them come out of Egypt's spoil. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell old Pharaoh, let my people go. Now, I hope that you all enjoyed that.
Teachers, parents, and students love the Kenton County School District.